we're back with Andrew Marques from Cape Savings Bank to talk about the latest status with all the loan craziness. How you doing, Andrew?
All right. How are you doing today?
All right. So what has unfolded in this week?
So big news today is the SBA has effectively turned off the faucet for the Paycheck Protection Program. The funds have been exhausted in full. That's $349 billion. In a statement from the SBA secretary that was distributed by the regional office today, they said that they have made 14 years worth of loan commitments in 14 days. So it kind of puts into perspective the amount of demand out there, and obviously the popularity of the program and the amount of work that has been done in the last couple of weeks since basically the announcement to today. It's been kind of unprecedented amount of demand, especially on the local bank level. We typically process a dozen SBA loans a year, and we did probably a dozen an hour. It seems like so.
Andrew, has there been any talk about infusing these loans with more cash or?
Yes. Yep. In fact, before we got close to the threshold, they were already in discussions with increasing that cap. It's not official until it's passed legislation. However, I know all the bankers associations, from American Banking Association, Mass Bankers, they're all lobbying hard to get the money, get additional money to fund more loans, because we were in the middle of processing loans this morning, and we refreshed the page and it's not available anymore. And that's kind of how we knew it was completely exhausted.
How many of your clients do you think were left dry at this point?
It's hard to say. It really is, because a lot of people applied early before it was even open.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have kind of been trying to get their ducks in a row and figure out the best path forward, and they may not be familiar with SBA lending process or bank application process. So we've been talking to new people today as initial conversation to get them in the program. So we're going to continue to take applications in hopes that there will be a second round of funding. Obviously, no promises can be made at this point. And we've had applications on file that we just simply didn't have enough time to process before the well ran dry, unfortunately. So I do anticipate more funding. At what level, it's hard to say at this point. But
right, because I was going to ask, has there been any talk of any other alternative types of monetary help for small businesses? But we're just not sure yet.
Well, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is still open. There's been a lot of bumps along the road. Again, they were completely inundated with demand as well. That was the first program to be launched. It already existed within the SBA. And as various counties and states throughout the country were designated disaster areas, it opened up the ability for them to apply for that loan. The whole country is considered in a disaster, so there's that much demand. But I talked to a bunch of clients that have applications in queue. They haven't really heard anything. I've heard that funds are starting to trickle out there as they're able to process the applications. But I think it's just kind of a manpower issue on the SBA side of things.
And that's administered, as you told us last time, through the SBA disaster office, right?
Correct.
So you guys aren't processing those loans.
No, we are not. Unfortunately, we don't really have access to any additional information beyond what the borrower has. They've instructed us to have customers with questions reach out to the email or 1-800 number that was included on their application confirmation that they got. So if there are questions, they're directing them directly to the disaster customer service lines.
So do you have any, this is not necessarily your territory, but are your clients seeing their economic impact payments coming in? Any of them seeing that? the $1,200 per individual.
Stimulus.
Yeah, I've heard just kind of through conversations with coworkers and things that some have hit the accounts. So yeah, that is happening.
Andrew, let me ask you for just clarification on the PPP loan, right? A certain percentage of that is supposed to be allocated for a business's payroll, right? 75% or so?
Yes. So
Right.
there's a specific calculation in the guidance to come up with the dollar amount of the loan proceeds.
Mhm.
It's based on your average monthly payroll or net income from Schedule C for a sole proprietor, self-employed individual. So that average income times 2.5, the way the math works out, 75% of that has to be used for payroll expenses, rehiring your workforce. And the key there for full forgiveness, at least 75% of the loan has to be used for payroll expenses at the same level, both average dollar amount and full-time equivalent jobs that you had prior to the disaster.
Okay, good. Sometimes for some businesses that might be problematic if their larger concern is overhead.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Worst case scenario, you don't meet the forgiveness guidelines in full. It's not an all or nothing forgiveness calculation based on everything we've been told so far. We have received some worksheets and kind of documentation from our internal auditors that are going to help us kind of get our clients' books up to date, or their record keeping up to date, make sure that they're able to provide the correct and the correct information for forgiveness. But in a worst case scenario, not 100% of the loan is forgiven. You have a 2-year loan at 1% that will be paid in monthly installments.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Heather, do you have anything else?
Well, I'm wondering if you had talked to us before about it being a marriage of these two loans, the EIDL and the PPP, and people should be, not turning to one or the other, but looking at both of them carefully. And they're not as straightforward an argument as one would think, payroll versus, a $10,000 check. So what are you saying, since that EIDL loan there is still funded, what are you saying to clients now? Or maybe you haven't thought that through.
I encourage everyone to access as many of these programs as possible. The applications are still open for the EIDL, and they have the final determination for the amount they'll lend you. So kind of you provide your documentation as they request through the application process, and they come back with an offer saying, this is the amount we'll lend you over these many years, and it's a fixed rate of 3.75% for any for-profit business and 2.75% for a nonprofit. So the rate is very good. The rate is very good. It's low interest rate, and they're offering very long terms, up to 30 years in repayment. So it is still a loan. Doesn't have as many qualifying factors as the PPP program, but I have been encouraging everyone to, apply for that and get the application in for PPP, assuming that we will see more funding there. But beyond that, there are still bank loans. If you have a good relationship with the bank, you may be able to apply for a traditional commercial loan as a business owner. And I think the key too is if you're concerned as a business owner about making a payment, whether it's rent, utilities, whatever else it might be, insurance, be proactive, reach out to those people and see if they're offering any programs or deferments, any options for someone negatively impacted by COVID-19, because a lot of people have been willing to be flexible. Landlords I've talked to saying, what are we going to do? We have to deal with what we have. I'm not promising that, and I wouldn't expect a landlord to just go ahead and forgive it, but whether it's a payment plan or something like that for rent. I know as a banker, anytime someone is concerned about missing a payment in the future, and they're being proactive about it, it gives us more room, gives us more ability to deal with it preemptively than kind of say, oh, you missed this payment. What can we do now? So.
Gotcha. Well, I think we'll be in touch, Andrew. And if
Yeah.
you hear something before we do,
Exactly.
shoot us an email so we can set something up.
All right.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for your time and your expertise, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Andrew.